We are all here because we share a passion for architecture, for cities, and for the natural environment, whether this is embodied in the more traditional interests in materials, form, sight, and light, or whether it is manifest in the contemporary preoccupations with embodied energies, density, diversity, and with the social and ecological consequences of our architectural and urban thinking and building today. I believe we are at a critically important juncture for the fields of architecture, for preservation, and for urban planning and design in general. And I wanted to start by sharing a personal moment, which in many ways contributed to my addressing all of you here today in this new capacity. This is one of my favorite buildings in Beirut, where I'm from originally. It is the headquarters for the National Electric Company of Lebanon and was designed and built circa 1965 by the architect collective CETA, the Centre d'études techniques et architecturales, which comprised of architects Jacques Artangui, Pierre Narmet, Joseph Nassar, and Jean-Noël Conan. Like much of the architecture of the time and across the world emerging out of colonization, it symbolizes a heroic moment for architecture as it actively participated in the construction of collective infrastructure, affirmed the possibility for independent, progressive, and secular thinking. All the while being exquisitely designed in a hybridized, contaminated kind of modernism whose perfectly dense and compressed proportions, tiny by our bigness standards, are offset by its strategic siting, which renders it a monument framed against the Mediterranean Sea and sky behind. Today, the building is dimly lit at night like a ghost. It's hard to see. The National Electric Company of Lebanon is almost bankrupt, and the building has become a ruin, following an increasing disinvestment in collective government and infrastructure. Instead, shiny condominium towers continue to rise in the highly privatized downtown part of the city, each one with its own private power generator, while the rest of the city experiences several hours without electricity every day. For the first time in the city's history, it hasn't rained for an entire year or snowed in the mountains around, with thousands of farmers flooding the already explosively dense city and adding to the million of Syrian refugees also fleeing a war ignited in large part by the terrible drought their country experienced in the past several years. As with the new economy built around the multiplication of individual power generators, the recent traffic in the city has been made worse by the water trucks flocking to the privileged neighborhoods on a daily basis, only adding to the thick cloud of carbon fumes, which has long ago turned the city's beautiful soft Mediterranean light into an undifferentiated and generic gray. While Beirut is a specific place, it could also be any city today or tomorrow. And embodied in this architectural moment, no one is interested in preserving, in a city no one believes should be planned, is what I believe the context, challenges, and opportunities for architecture and design today lie. In the next few months, as we engage together in discussions about the future of the school and the future of the field, I would like to suggest a possible mission statement for Colombia's GSAP as a question open for debate and refinement. It would be something like, the Colombia GSAP is committed to opening up new territories for the imagining and practice of more meaningful architecture and more equitable cities. What does opening up new territories mean? Here at the school, we believe it is everything from geography to history and theory and to technology, amongst other. And we've established a context for exploration and experimentation that refuses to take for granted traditional disciplinary boundaries, accepted historical narratives, established framings and perspectives, or inherited positions of what is possible and what is assumed not to be. This constant shifting of perspective, mode of research, and design inquiry cuts across all of the school's programs and implies a constant reframing of ideas that has consequences that span our approaches, from the recasting of bricks, past and future, to the reimagining of how architectural, urban, social, and ecological thinking, design, and planning can coexist. As if following the Eames radical representation of the context for design thinking in 1968, with its gradual scaling that connects the simple movement and play of a family in the park to the larger forces of the universe and the microorganisms of the body, the school exists as an infrastructure to constantly reframe the realities we are given by representing them, to create our own maps of understanding, opening up many more choices and possibilities for a wider and more informed context within which to act on and within. Our Powers of 10 would start with a map of climate change, what I believe to be ground zero for shared concerns and conversations across our disciplines and fields, as it recasts fundamentally our representations of the world and our understanding of the forces shaping the built environment. The Studio X network, designed to shift center-periphery narratives and explore certain themes, architectural, urban, social, and environmental, across specific geographies and histories in a kind of constant feedback loop of relational thinking. This year, you will not only have the opportunity to engage with the expanded territory of the school through studio travel abroad, but also through a number of smaller research seminars and longer workshops, as well as through a number of important symposiums and conversations which will continue to take place here in Avery, as well as in New York, still an ideal context of diversity and cultural engagement. This year, to encourage you to get out and visit museums, galleries, and attend events across the city and across campus, we've started a GSAP Recommends pamphlet, which you can use to guide you in these coming months, and which will be regularly updated online and printed as a reminder to engage the city around you. Some of my favorites are Here and Elsewhere at the New Museum, the upcoming MoMA show, Uneven Growth, Tactical Urbanisms for Expanding Megacities, Jeff Koons, a retrospective at the Whitney Museum, and an exclusive performance for Columbia students by Bruno Latour here on campus on September 23rd. The school's own engagement with the art and technology scene of the city will manifest itself in the space it shares with the new museum on the Bowery, where we will explore possibilities for a studio classroom hybrid model of experimentation and education. GSAP will also continue to collaborate with a number of other schools across the university on research initiatives and symposiums, such as with the School of Public Health, the Columbia Earth Institute, the School of the Arts, as well as create new bridges, such as with MISAS, the Middle East Institute, and the School of Law, amongst others. While here in Wood Auditorium, we will continue to host great lectures, as well as symposiums, with this year 3 major events in collaboration with Studio X Johannesburg, Istanbul, and Amman, as well as conversations with scholars and architects such as Sejima, Naomi Klein, David Adjaye, Tatiana Bilbao, Angela Davis, and Angelo Bucci, amongst others. On the other side, at Buell, watch for continuing exhibitions, as well as conversations such as the one on architecture and diplomacy, which will be held on September 9th. The end of year will be a great occasion to celebrate your work as part of the always explosive end of year show. And this year we are starting with a pop-up exhibit on the 4th floor to begin the semester with recent faculty works and interests. This show is entitled Models and Books, or How to Put Together an Exhibit on the Tuesday after Labor Day. All of this activity is intended to create a context for conversation, exchange, and debate, while all around and under Avery's distinguished and contained stature is the amazing proliferation of always surprising, highly productive, and often inspirational labyrinth of spaces. From the Avery Library, please visit as often as possible. I promise that feeling a little intimidated and somewhat lost as you look through the stacks will provide for a different kind of inspiration and many more ideas than the ones you may find online. And to the underground of making, please also visit as often as possible. And finally, to the coupled space of the studio and the classroom, where your ideas will take form and contribute to the exploration, the discussions, and even maybe to a clearer or more shared engagement with what might constitute the imagining and practice of more meaningful architecture and more equitable cities. And before I introduce the faculty who will be leading much of this work and thinking, I want to suggest we have started to work with Troy in the next month. The website will be really under construction as you before you know. And so Troy will have some ideas, but the idea is that we want it to be a place for your engagement as a first level, and there'll be many more discussions as we go.